And should be recording. Yep, we are now recording.
Okay, so we are starting our CDC meeting for June 4th. We are starting at 5:30 today. We had a modified agenda as we met with the Joint Advisory Committee with the City of Sumner today and the water treatment plant. I am here. Councilmember McClymonds and Councilmember Davis are here. So
I'm gonna look to Debbie to read the agenda.
yeah,
The agenda is the Joint Advisory Committee debrief.
And what we have in the minutes,
Oh.
approval of the minutes.
Of the minutes from May 7.
mm-hmm. And I did read through those. I did not see any changes. Did anybody else happen to read through and see changes? Okay, all right. So we can approve the minutes.
Department reports and presentation,
Done.
We have none.
discussion action items.
Just the jack, is the jack.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have anything that they want to bring up today? I mean,
Well,
we can
you know,
we're gonna talk about Jack, but
my thing is, I kind of want to understand the health of the river, right? And how it's measured, and then it's nice that we're getting all these A's, right?
mhm.
But do we need to get A's? B minuses, healthy too? I don't want to pollute the river,
Mhm.
but on the other hand, I also don't want to, overachieve. Yeah, so for me, it's just kind of that whole thought process. I want to understand how we're deciding these things, right? Especially what if the river's like really, really healthy? Or that might be a good news story.
Yeah,
What about the bad news story? Somebody else is like junking up the river upstream and we're spending all this millions of dollars to keep it super clean. It doesn't really matter, right?
mhm.
Because it's all polluted upstream.
Well, the tribes are measuring upstream and downstream, so they would hopefully have an idea if it's coming
Yeah.
from somewhere else, but
Right.
then are they responsible to clean it? Because I don't think, I mean, I know that Tahale has a water treatment plant, but that is a groundwater treatment plant because they have the membrane cells. So that's different than what we have down in Sumner. So it doesn't go into a river or a stream, it goes into groundwater. So yeah, that would be a good question is, if somebody else is polluting it upstream, how do we find out about that? And how do we, possibly even have them help us out?
We just go look at the reports, I guess, and try to understand them.
Andrea emailed me the link, or I got the link out of the chat. I put it in a draft email. I'll give that to the committee tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my biggest thing out of it is I get that we're trying to lower this stuff lower and lower and lower and lower, right? How low
Get
is
below
far
10.
enough, right?
Yeah,
Um,
whatever the 10 is.
right.
And I think that if I remember our conversations from the treatment plant facility tour he was saying we needed to get under 10 to hit that threshold so we don't have to go pay more money. You get like a 5-year grace period
Mm-hmm.
to then continue to meet that. So if then we can get under 10 without having to, at a certain point, then we will get a 5-year kind of grace period there leading up to.
Yeah,
new
but then do
standards.
they move the bar, in 3 years and say, now you have to be at 0?
Yeah.
Yes, because that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
That was nitrate level, right?
Yeah.
No, like this total carbon level.
Yeah.
That was, he was saying that they're switching from, I guess, like either nitrate or ammonia level determination to total, all of it together can't exceed.
I did like what Ron had to say though about there's other places that are hitting those numbers, but they're adding carbon at an expense. And we're trying to find ways not to do that, when it's being more cost effective, which I
Mhm.
think is a good thing.
And as I would say, from my perspective, as it comes to the jack, if there's things that the council has concerns about related to the ILA, the billing. I took a note that before the next quarterly, when the next quarterly billing comes in, so we just got it from March. We will get those out in advance of the jack, so the committee can see what we're seeing from the billing that we came over, because I was not aware that they were burying the pre-treatment and the O&M
Previously.
previously and then just separated it out. But we did ask finance to create a separate bars number so that we can,
Is that something they can send out similar to what they do with the Parks and Rec one that we get each month that kind of shows just a little bit of a breakdown? It doesn't have to be super in-depth.
we get it quarterly.
Oh, quarter.
We get invoiced quarterly. So the next invoice would be for, see, we're in June, so it would be in July we'd get our next invoice.
Okay, so I had it.
Cause we just got our one for the first 3 months and I can send those out if you'd like to see them.
Mhm.
And then we'd send you the next one in July.
And that's kind of how you came up with the $7,000 a month. You just kind of broke that.
No, on this new bill, it shows the kind of, we get invoice, they mail us the invoice once a quarter, but I think it had the billings for each month, but we just get it once a quarter. I'm doing it from memory from what Brenda was showing me. But then it showed kind of pre-treatment as a separate cost, but I can go work with Brenda to get those pulled up and sent out to the committee.
So the theory is the total on the bill really didn't go up. It's normal, but it just is now telling us what.
More detail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
detail.
well, it sounded like from what she said that it probably should have gone down a little bit based off the fact that we're only at 41% and they're at 59%. Before they were just kind of splitting it. So we actually should hopefully be getting a little bit of a savings with the new way that it's being pushed out.
Yeah, and one thing Andrea didn't mention, and I know her and Brenda talked about, I know I talked with Councilmember Fullerton, is it's not clear in the ILA when you make that percentage break on the number of industrial users, whether it's monthly or yearly. And we're trying to push that there's some, we probably have to document it through a amendment to the ILA or an MOU that it's done once a year. Like in January, we figure out the number of industrial users in both cities. That's the percentage that's used for the next 12 months and then recalculated at the beginning of the next year.
Mhm.
Just because it'd be really hard to do that on a,
Quarterly.
or even a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're in talks about with them as well, as how that percentage breakdown goes.
Is that gonna change drastically when Peak 410 comes online?
Possibly.
The occupants. You know, what, if anything, they're discharging.
And it seems like it's not based on square footage, but just number of occupants. So at least the way they've been talking, and I could be wrong. Because, if it's just based on the number of occupants. The building we're building now will have 2 occupants. But it's built on, if it's based on square foot, I think that'll be the other thing to clarify. Is it based on number of occupants or square footage of the total of that space? Because I think the industrial area in Sumner is significantly larger than what we're building out here. And so I don't know if it's based on 100,000 square foot building being one, or it being 100,000 square feet, and it's the sum of the. Good thing to bring up with the Jack of how that's being calculated.
Yeah, I had that note that I wanted to understand that, wanted to see that percentage calculation.
And so I don't know if it's just one business, no matter how big they are, is one, or if it's that square footage, because it's.
Right, now we know it's 41 and 59, so that's our percentage. at
And I
this
guess
point.
that was my other
For us.
question is there categories of non-domestic users? Like, so, I mean, obviously you have your larger industrial users, and I think before they give examples of like metal shops or countertop manufacturers that they might have down there in Sumner, or maybe someday up here. Are they a different percentage? Are we getting?
No, I think there's the non-domestic users, which is all basically not residential users. And then there is significant industries, which would be a higher category of the non-domestic users. But I think my understanding of the non-domestic users, anybody that's not residential.
Yeah, well, I think she also mentioned before that they kind of have an idea of how much each business puts into the system. So their percentage is going to be based off of how much they need to pre-treat or how much goes into,
Yeah, and I guess that was my
Into-
question, not
yeah.
just the number of businesses, but how heavy of a pre-treatment does each business need? Is that-
Exactly. So yeah, like a dentist, having to separate the mercury and all that stuff out, but versus, maybe a hairdresser or something that just has shampoo or something. I don't know.
with their little soap incident sounded like a high school graduation prank.
Well,
Just
that
dump soap in the
was
fountain.
McDonald's that dumped their washing out.
It's the bun place.
Some manufacturer.
There's a big McDonald's hamburger bun manufacturer down there
In Sumner,
in the industrial area.
glad it wasn't up here in Bonney Lake.
And how do you know this? Great googly moogly.
I tried to get a job there when I was like 16, so.
Oh, really? Okay, that's how you do it?
I kind of keep my eye out on
All the buns?
all the craziness.
Yeah.
The only reason I do it because I ride my bike on the Riverwalk Trail, bike ride goes right by it. So
Yeah, I think I'm gonna drive by it one
So
day.
you knew it was there, but you didn't know that they did
there's
that.
this big sign in the building, it's pictured of a bunt, you know? It's
Yeah.
gotta be-
Yeah.
It's the only one warehouse in town that's got that.
Sesame seed bun.
Yes, right, yeah.
So if you go to McDonald's, you might be eating a local made hamburger bun.
Good news.
But yeah, I think figuring out how they're calculating the percentage of non-domestic, is it one business versus one business, or is it based on square footage? And then figure that out. And then I think we then have, as the city, have the, and Councilmember Fulton brought this question to me, is do we add something to the commercial counts that basically pay a percentage share of that pretreatment bill that we are now seeing itemized out?
Yeah, so that was close to 8,000.
Yeah,
But
there's a reasonable way to do that, right?
yeah, so like if we have 200 businesses, then we just split it up
Well,
maybe,
but then
but
again, we'd have to think about if we just split it equally between 200 businesses,
true.
what's the impact that each business is having? So we'd have to have a similar formula to what they're using to calculate this to be able to disperse the financial impact.
well, and they have that, they'll have that information for us too. So that would be good to make sure that we get the information on how much, once we figure out which non-domestic users we have, then how many do we have and what is their percentage of pretreatment that needs to be done per
Right.
business.
And we could even do it based on flow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so a good example of why you wanna do that, which is the best bad example I can come up with for Jason is self-storage facilities probably have zero pre-treatment
yeah,
requirements because they basically have a single toilet. right?
yeah,
Don't disagree.
yeah.
So while they're a business, they also probably don't impact the system a lot unless this isn't stormwater, right? This is just wastewater.
This is, yeah, what's going down the sewer system. And so, yeah, in that same vein, a restaurant would have a lot more higher water demand.
Fats,
because-
oils, yeah.
Well, but just the water demand would be higher,
Mhm.
so their sewer flow rate would be higher. Therefore, a restaurant in theory would have more impact than a self-storage facility. Is that true across the system? I don't know, but it's something that we would need to explore.
So are you saying that that's based off of we could do it the same way we do just base it off of their water consumption?
Because that's how you do your sewer billing. Your sewer billing is based, there's a,
Oh, I know.
yeah. I guess I was doing.
I get one of them.
More for Councilmember Davis, there's a table that, based on how much your water usage is equals how much your sewer bill is based on your flow. And in theory, maybe a business has more pre-treatment requirement if they have more water flow. I don't,
Right.
something we'll need to explore. Once you have a better understanding of how it's being calculated too.
It'll be interesting if how much that varies quarter by quarter.
Yeah, and I don't know
Yet,
yet.
one of the more things you have to memorize.
One more thing I gotta get on my plate and in my head.
Okay, does anybody have anything for open discussion? That you'd like to bring forth? Any past meetings or questions that you might have from,
I think I want to get past the workshop tonight, maybe the next community development.
yeah,
Mhm.
I just wanted to let the community know, we do have 2 CDC items going directly to council next week on full discussion.
Because of
just-
today.
Because of today,
Mhm.
it's basically the pavement management stuff for the year, chip sealing, the fog seal, and then the striping contract for what we're gonna do restriping of the roads. And those bids just got opened yesterday, and they're working on getting that, packing all into the.
Do we know anything about Angeline, the possible roundabout?
I can talk about that.
Yes, that's
So,
Mr. Gill's project.
so last Friday, we submitted a $2 million ask to WashDOT's pedestrian bicycle grant program. When we last met with council workshop,
Mhm.
we just said, hey, we're gonna go after these, four funding agencies. That was one of them. So they were due. The other funding agency that we wanted to chase, was TIB. So we met with them 2 weeks ago, where they rolled out the money for the snow cities on that. Their application's due in August. The other thing that we talked about was a safety action plan. So it's based on how many crashes we have, and that would score really high.
Mhm.
So we're moving the funding forward that Jason got to get a consultant under contract to write that plan. That would come back to you, but that project is gonna be in it, and there's a pot of money there. Looking a little further out, the same funding that gave us the design money is the rural transportation corridors funding. That would be another source that we'd be digging into. So we're chasing funding right now and trying to get started on design.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Mhm.
Going back to your question, I really liked your question on how do we split it up? And I get a bill too. And mine is unique. Jason's is probably the same way, is that I get a bill from Tacoma Water, and then I also get a bill from Pierce County for sewer.
Yeah.
And since I'm a resident, it's just a flat rate. But businesses, I think they do it by loading. I'd be interested to see how they do that. The other part of this that we haven't talked about yet, so the past 2 days I've dove into the public works trust fund loan that we're filling out for this. And it's a lot of questions, but it dives deep into your rates. How does this affect your rates? What are we doing, you know? And that application, it may put many of you to sleep, but it really gets down into the nitty gritty of why we're doing this, the reason why Sumner's doing this, and the population, how many people are affected by this. And to me, it's kind of fascinating because it really sums it all up for the Public Works Board to judge our project on whether or not they're going to give us a loan or not for it.
And I have reached out to Michael about what happens if we don't get the loans, or one city gets the loan and the other city doesn't. And the response I got back from Michael is we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see what happens after this loan process. And then I had one other item I wanted to update the council on when you were done with that.
I'm all done. Sorry, I went way off. Wait, Angela.
We are marching full steam ahead with what we're calling the 410 corridor improvement projects that are being done as part of the Peak 410 development. That's going to be a massive construction project starting probably the 8th of July is our current targeted date. Where we're trying to do it after the holiday weekend and try to get it done before Labor Day. Chris is saying 2.5 months. Kim and I are thinking more like 100 days, which puts us the end of September. But it's a large project. I know the roundabout's part of it, and that's what people are going to mainly be talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But in addition, and the reason we're calling it a corridor improvement project, because there's a lot of other improvements going on in the corridor. So if you've been out to East Town, you know where Centennial Storage is. The sidewalk on the north side of 410 ends there. Chris will be extending it all the way down to Joel Clark's property on the north side, so almost 10 blocks of new sidewalk. On the south side, we're gonna be going from 221st to about 224th. So about another 3 or 4 blocks of sidewalk on the south side of 410. Of course, the roundabout. As part of the roundabout, we'll be open cutting the road to put in the new sewer line to connect the south side of 410 to the north side of 410. Down at 229th, we're gonna be directionally boring under the road to put in a water line for Valley Valley's also gonna be extending water line up the south side of 410. We're gonna be extending water on the north side of 410, from the site down to about the Centennial Storage. We also have to lengthen the turn parking on the westbound leg of 410, which is gonna require them to demo part of that existing landscaping bed out there, landscaping island,
Which lane are we going?
the left-hand turn lane to make it longer,
Which intersection?
at 214th and 410.
Oh, I was afraid you were gonna say that.
Yeah, just lengthening the turn lane pockets on both sides.
On both sides of 410
Yeah, on 214. Oh, yeah, on 410 to make the turns
onto
onto
214. The
214.
left turn onto 214.
Yeah,
North and south.
Both.
north, south, both directions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So on the west side of 214th, that's not a big deal. It's, painting and cleaning up the turtles in the road. On the east side of 214th, that's demoing out part of our landscape median and recontouring it. Undergrounding all the electrical utilities on the north side of the road, for the same lengths that we're doing all the sidewalk projects, and some undergrounding on the south side as well. So lots of construction, and it's going to be daytime and nighttime working. Speed limits are gonna be slowed down to 35 miles an hour through the construction zone. And there's going to be lane flopping and down to single lanes in each direction for a while as we work through this construction project. We met with WashDOT, Ken and Leslie and I did with their PIO, and we're developing a communication plan and plan to start pushing out information to the public in mid-June. And then having a web page for it, and then WashDOT will also be pushing out the communications through their travel alerts and their processes. And then having a web page where people can see what's happening, because the lane closures are gonna be, and road shifts will be happening.
So
Trying to get as much information out as we can to the public.
after the holiday weekend, you're talking about Labor Day or Memorial Day?
Or-
No, Memorial Day's
Independence
over.
Independence Day.
Oh, 4th of July.
We're,
Okay.
we're gonna start on the 8th of July. And then hopefully be done by Labor Day weekend.
So have we thought about how much traffic this might push down off Veterans onto Old Buckley Highway for the people trying to avoid?
Yeah, it's gonna be a monitoring, 96th is probably gonna see more traffic. South Prairie is gonna probably see more traffic, so Buckley's gonna see more traffic. There's just no other way to do all the work other than, we're gonna try to make it as easy as possible. They're gonna shift everybody to the south side of the road, and it'll be one lane in each direction. And then build most of the roundabout, shift everybody to the north side, and then build the south side of the project.
How long did it take to put the Costco interchange in?
A couple months.
Hmm.
So they're working on,
I don't even remember that. Do you guys remember that?
I didn't even,
Remember that?
I didn't even know it was there,
Yeah,
like
that's what I was thinking, yeah.
drove down. Cause I usually don't, I used to shop at Albertsons, but, not there anymore, but I'm trying to remember when it even got, but anyway, I drove by and I got completely lost. I was just sitting there, I'm like, where am I?
yeah,
Something's missing, like, all of
Yeah.
a sudden there was
they,
warehouse and
Where did the
holes and
tree
no
go?
trees.
It went quick.
Yeah, I was literally
2018.
scratching my head. I had to pull over because I didn't know where I was going.
I can't verify this, but they're saying they have about 7 crews on site.
They wanna hit it hard.
From Johansson, they have 7 of those crews out there. And they're gonna have 1 crew doing water, 1 crew doing sewer, 1 crew doing the roundabout. 1 crew doing sidewalks and everything.
They're
So,
doing a ton of work.
yeah.
Okay, shall we call this meeting adjourned at 5:55 and then make it down to the workshop in time to get started?
The mayor.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good questions too.
Thank you. Trying, I don't